Now, let's look at some of the business stories around for you this morning. Sebastian Chrispin, our business reporter, is here with us. And in terms of Christmas retailing results, we've got some figures from Next, I think, today.
That's right. So Next, very much seen as a bellwether of the UK high street, just reported its sales for the 2 months leading up to Christmas. And it's good news. Next says that the full price sales in roughly the 60 days leading up to Christmas went up by 1.5%. That was more than expected. But I think what's really interesting here is where we see the shift of people moving from buying things in store to buying things online. There's some quite striking figures there. So figures for online sales rose by more than 13% during that period. But at the same time, the number of people shopping in stores fell by about 6%. So quite a stark example there of how people are migrating from shopping in store to shopping online.
OK. Now, we've got the Secretary of State for International Trade, Liam Fox. He's in China at the moment. What's he up to there?
Well, the idea of this trip is to talk about the future trading relationship between Britain and China. Now, it's important to point out that Britain remains a member of the EU, and while it remains a member, it's not able to formally launch talks, trade talks with other economies. However, I think what we're seeing here is the government trying to lay the ground and make preparations for those future trade deals when they eventually happen. Now, ministers have for a long time spoken about the golden era in British-Chinese relations. The British government's invested about £25 billion to help British companies do business in China. But here what we're really seeing is the government trying to lay the ground and be in a position so that it can actually take talks forward when it leaves the EU.
Yeah, so post-Brexit, hopes of more trade with China and Asia in general, not just China?
Well, potentially. So over the weekend, there were some reports coming out that the UK was wanting to join what's called the Trans-Pacific Partnership. This is an area with looser trading arrangements based around the Pacific. It was designed by President Obama. Now, last year, President Trump said that the US was going to withdraw from those talks, but the remaining 11 countries are still keen to progress those talks, and they hope to reach an agreement sometime this year. Now, the UK government has reportedly said there is no geographical restriction on the UK joining that agreement, even though it's located thousands of miles away, and perhaps there are indications that countries like Australia, like New Zealand, might welcome Britain being part of that agreement. But as we say, it's really too early for Britain to begin any formal talks, so whether it's desirable or plausible remains to be seen.
Last question. New year, new banking rules coming into force today. What are they?
Well, that's right. So what's happening today is there is a new set of rules for the financial services industry coming from the EU. Now, the financial crisis exposed a number of flaws in how the financial sector worked, and what the European Commission tried to do was come up with a sweeping set of reforms that would tighten the sector and increase consumer protection. Now, this is very expensive for financial services companies. Some of them are very worried about the costs of doing these changes, the changes they're going to have to make to their business models, and the uncertainty that some of the rules could bring in. We've also seen in the last couple of days some regulators in the UK and Germany issuing reprieves to certain big financial companies. So big concerns for financial companies about these huge changes coming into force, but potentially we are seeing perhaps a more safe financial sector for consumers.
All right, Seb, many thanks indeed. Seb Chrispin there, our business reporter.